Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings Week 7 Rankings by position. The debate. You want to see the rankings list? Easy stuff. Hit the description. The links are all down there. Plus, you can jump to the time codes if you want to hear about which position concerns you the most in a week where there are 6 teams on buys and a bunch of players who might be too injured to play. Jake Ciely from theathletic.com. I have something that I think that you should do.
What's that?
There is a link in the description for the Restart Survivor League. LeagueSafe.com/the-PME, if you were wondering just what the direct link is. It's free to play. It takes less than 45 seconds to join, and it's $5,000 to the winner. You make one pick a week. If your team wins, you remain in it.
I like it, especially with what we had the Eagles and the 49ers knock out a lot of people this past week. Although I feel knocked out, so apologies in advance if I mentioned anything on the show where I haven't gotten through all the games yet because I was flying back from California overnight. My eyes are really tiny.
How dare you?
How dare I? My wife's aunt's 80th birthday, flew all the way to California and all the way back. No, how dare I? I flew back overnight to make sure I was back in time for this and other things. So how dare me actually be here for everybody? I'm taking this as in like, haha, I actually did a good thing.
You did do a good thing. I appreciate you being here. Apologies last week for the video problems. We tried to record it 3 times and it just failed every single time. So hopefully today you're able to see this part. Let's jump directly into the running back rankings for the week. Let's actually go to the injury report. So I don't have Christian McCaffrey in with his oblique injury. I do not have David Montgomery in, although the x-rays were negative. Ribs don't sound great. Kyron Williams sounds like he will play. Not sure about Ronnie Rivers as of yet. And then we're going back fully to, I have no Gibbs in. Miles Sanders is on bye. I do have Roschon Johnson in the rankings this week. Ditto for Jeff Wilson. Ditto for Aaron Jones. And you still have James Conner, A-Chain, and Khalil Herbert all on injured reserve. Jamal Williams is eligible to return from IR right now, although it doesn't sound like he's going to, so keep an eye on that throughout the week. Rankings: Eckler, Jacobs, Walker, Kyron Williams, Sideshow, Raheem, Mostert, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Isaiah Pacheco. That's the top 10. Then you got Brian Robinson, Swift, Aaron Jones, Rashad White, James Cook. Looks like Ramondre is going to be okay. Keep getting it in the passing game. I have Craig Reynolds at number 17 without Gibbs and without David Montgomery. Maybe that's too low. We'll find out. Alexander Madison, Rochambeau Johnson, Elijah Mitchell over Jordan Mason by 2 spots. I go Elijah Mitchell, Jerome Ford, Jordan Mason, Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren, Gus Edwards, Zach Moss, Najee, Jonathan Taylor, Latavius Murray, because no Damian Harris now, and then Jaleel McLaughlin. You get to, I don't know, 15. We'll call Ramondre like semi-safe. He's not, but we'll just call him that versus some of these other guys. At number 16, and it becomes a real shit show.
It does. We'll go back to something we talked about last week. He was already used more in the passing game. I would push Jonathan Taylor higher. Not a ton.
You love Jonathan Taylor. He sucks and doesn't even play as much.
No, he actually played more. It's just the fact that Zach Moss got the touchdown.
I mean, Zach Moss played more snaps than he did.
No, but he didn't touch the ball as much. Jonathan Taylor touched the ball more.
I want the guy who's out there and scoring touchdowns. I mean, so they played 2 games.
You made that much?
They played. Hold on. They played 2 games together. Who has 2 touchdowns and who doesn't?
You always make the argument about like the Kendrick Bournes of the world. Like, I don't care who gets the more snaps. I want the one touching the ball. I want the one that he's also used in the passing game, and that was Jonathan Taylor. So I said, I'm not going to move him up to the top 20. We didn't move him up to the top 20 last week. And yes, he got the touchdown. You were right about Zach Moss, but I will give you another week where, I mean, I guess it's Cleveland, so that's why I don't even want to push either of them higher. Like, yeah. I play... Just swap them? No, you know what? I play both of them. You hate Najee Harris. How do you have Najee Harris at 27?
I know she's playing the Rams. Rams have a pretty soft run defense. You can run on the Rams, just teams. I mean,
I would rather play Jonathan Taylor, though.
I would not, because Jonathan Taylor doesn't even play half of his team snaps against the best defense in football.
Yeah, they only stopped Christian McCaffrey once he got hurt.
Sure, Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in football, versus Jonathan Taylor, who can't even play half his team snaps.
Where he's getting eased in, and he just
that's
more
not
the passing
good. Jake,
downs.
That's not good if he's getting eased in. Can he pass Zach Moss first?
Did I tell you to put him 15?
It sounds like you
No.
did. It sounds like you want him at number
I'm
one.
not-
You're like, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, same fucking guy.
There's a lot more talent in Jonathan Taylor's bones than there are. He's closer to Christian McCaffrey than he is to Zach Moss.
I don't know about that.
I'll give you.
And let's
No,
not. And it's funny because like in terms of like the route participation, you are correct on Jonathan Taylor. Who had more targets and who had more catches? Zach Moss.
In this past week?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he was 6 for 38 on 7 targets. Jonathan Taylor 5 for 46 on 6 targets.
I didn't think it was Zach Moss get some late. Again,
Yeah.
this is you gotta remember.
Zach
I'm watching the
Zach
live.
Moss got a bunch early in that game. He had like 3 catches on the first drive, and then he piled some more up back late.
Okay, so like I said, this is what happens when I'm watching on my phone and trying to do which by the way, YouTube TV doesn't let you do the quad box on the phone. It's only on TVs. That sucks. Anyway, I was like,
that would be difficult to watch a quad box on your phone unless you had like one of those. Like I went back to the mini. Love the mini. Because it actually fits in my hand. I don't get like carpal tunnel trying to reach the very top of the screen. And I know that you can swipe it down.
I'm sorry you have baby hands, but
I'm not a big man. But like I had the Max for a while, and I was like, this is just too big. This is my fucking iPad. I don't need to carry this around. Yeah, I don't need to carry
That's what I have.
It's too big. It's too big. Why don't you need? You don't need that. You're not old. You don't wear glasses. You have decent eyes.
No, but then I could watch videos and stuff like that. I actually pay attention while I'm out at family events and they're all talking. I'm sitting there on my phone like this, like, yeah. So anyway, I don't want to put him inside the top 15. I will say this. Look, hey, we can have this argument and move on from it, but I like Roschon Johnson. First game back after what they were just doing, and I know there wasn't a ton of it. Like, it wasn't a huge day for what a lot of people expected from Foreman, with the only touches really going to him. But I would play Jonathan Taylor over Roschon Johnson, not knowing if Roschon Johnson's even going to be the lead.
Yeah, well, that was actually the thing that I wanted to discuss with you. Was we want Roschon Johnson to be a thing because he looks semi-explosive, right? So yeah, I have him at number 19. I have Donta Foreman at number 32. What is the chance, would you say, that, I mean, easing him back in is one thing if he's coming off a concussion. Either he can play and he's healthy, or he can't play and he's not healthy. So I don't worry about him being eased back in. His role is going to be whatever his role is, and that is really what the discussion is going to be. What are the chances Donta Foreman is just the new Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson just has the same role?
Well, so, and that's what I don't know. You know, I talked to over at The Athletic, and I asked Zach Jackson, and I said, you know, what's the chances that Khalil Herbert, this is before Khalil Herbert's injury, so what's the chances that Khalil Herbert ever cedes this job to Roschon Johnson? And his opinion was that Roschon Johnson would be a thing. He specifically said, once it gets colder, look for him to get more work. So that sounded to me like, hold on, Roschon Johnson's just going to...
Why?
Because they're going to run more.
But they
touches a higher run rate.
But they don't run with him. They tend to pass to him.
I know, but it's still more touches. It's more snaps. It's a more run-heavy approach, more touches for the running backs, less passing in general. It was just more opportunities to be on the field. To keep, you don't want Khalil Herbert out there touching the ball 20. You don't want most running backs when it's 30 degrees. Point being, they were going to get a more run-heavy approach as it got colder, more touches for Roschon Johnson to keep Khalil Herbert healthy was the explanation I got. I'm just telling you. Point being, whether or not you agree with that sentiment or, you know, that strategy, the point sounded like Roschon Johnson was not a serious threat for Herbert right now, which is why I brought this up to say, I'm with you. Like, I would love for Roschon Johnson to be the lead. He has looked more explosive. Similar, it's the Jalen Warren, Najee Harris situation until the final 2 games when Khalil Herbert got hurt. Until that point, it looked like, hey, we want the better guy, pass catcher guy. But first game back, and again, it's not like he's coming back from a multi-week injury, but it's the first game we get to see him with Donta Foreman. I just don't know. It's not just a 50-50 split. Like you just said, it's 50-50 all over again. Worst case, 60-40, and Foreman is Herbert. So all that being said, I would not have Roschon Johnson that high. But the thing we talk about, you and I talk about with your ranks and my ranks all the time, I would put Roschon Johnson behind Jonathan Taylor. If I'm going for pure ceiling, I think you can make for the case that they have a similar ceiling of an upside play, because if Roschon gets 60% of the work, if Jonathan Taylor all of a sudden gets 65%, this is the week they unlock him, like Breece Hall, there's the upside for both of them. So I would put him lower, but I would put him in the Jonathan Taylor conversation.
I'm going to keep him above Jonathan Taylor, mainly because I would rather have a 40% snap share in the touches that are allocated along with it with Roschon Johnson versus even 65%.
Even if it's not Justin Fields?
Even if it's not, I mean, that could mean more touches or more running at that point.
It could be a broken offense because that looked awful.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. Outside of one game, it looked like a pretty broken offense anyway.
It was 2 games. Don't be such a hater.
I mean, DJ Moore was the only person to do anything in one of those games. Let's not forget that. It's not like anyone else benefited from just them playing pitch and catch together.
No, but Khalil Herbert had an amazing 1.5 games until he got hurt.
Sure.
That was on row for 2 weeks in a row for being on track.
I mean, amazing is probably pushing it. To be inside the top 20 consideration is probably, I mean, that's where I have him this week, but a lot of that has to do with injuries and buys. I guess the whole point would be that this change could be good for him only because, and it could be good for all of the running backs in Chicago, because I know he only had the 1 rushing touchdown on the year, but Herbert was still commanding like 30% of the rushing share of that team. It's just fewer touches that the running backs are going to get. If you can just say, hey, of that 30%, maybe they don't run as often as they would now because of that, but you can allocate 75% of that 30% back to the running backs that Field was having. That's probably like an extra 3 to 5 touches a game for the running backs, which is good for everyone if you started their running backs.
Is it though? I mean, we could be talking about Daniel Jones without Saquon Barkley. We could talk about Zach Wilson, and I mean, 30% of 0 is still 0.
I mean, you go back and watch that game from yesterday. Outside of the first drive, Bagnet or whatever the hell that guy's name is, actually, he looked quite competent.
Okay, I'll go back and watch the rest of it because again, I was bouncing around, and I've seen Bagent. And I saw part of it, and from the part that I saw and bouncing around the games, it did not look good at all. We're talking Zach Wilson level.
And Breece Hall can succeed with Zach Wilson. I'm just saying,
Breece Hall is also Breece Hall and getting 80%.
Yeah, you have to remember, you're painting these rose-colored glasses of Justin Fields, who sucks. If someone who comes in who also sucks, I don't see that big of a difference.
No, but the Justin Fields offense doesn't suck for production.
It does suck for basically everyone who's not Justin Fields. Maybe DJ Moore can have a good game. Maybe Khalil Herbert can have a good game, but it's really just Justin Fields. And now, like you said, outside of a game and a half, I guess, that he was pretty shitty too.
No, I get, but I'm going back to that game and a half when the offense is working with Khalil Herbert getting 70% of the work is what we're banking on here. I don't think that's happening, and I think it's even potentially worse for Bagent. I just wouldn't be that optimistic about it. But don't we need to? I know where you go. We also need to talk about the San Francisco 49ers situation.
Yes. Elijah Mitchell I have at 19. Jordan Mason I have at number 21. Now, when Christian McCaffrey exited the game against the Browns, we saw more Jordan Mason than we saw Elijah Mitchell. I would be under the assumption, and maybe we'll hear Coach speak on this, and I can flip it throughout the course of the week once we get a better idea, is that Elijah Mitchell just missed the last 2 games with an injury. I don't know if he was still up to speed with his hamstring problem, whether or not they thought he was 100% or if he was 90%, knowing that Jordan Mason was a fresh pair of legs in a game, or maybe Jordan Mason's the better blocker, and they knew they were under siege the entire time. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is, but historically, the answer with both these guys there has been Elijah Mitchell over Mason. Maybe that has changed with Kyle Shanahan. I don't know. But I'm going to go with what I've seen on the field over the course of the past year and a half versus what I saw in a half sample in a weird game on Sunday.
I get that. Jordan Mason has flashed a little bit. It hasn't been a lot of touches for him so far, but it was a little bit more of late. And I don't disagree with you at all. We've seen Elijah Mitchell. We knew that they love Elijah Mitchell to be the guy if something happens to Christian McCaffrey. It's twofold here. If it wasn't for the fact it's the 49ers, I don't love even having them in front of the Moss Taylor conversation because of 2 things.
I can't believe you want to play running backs against Cleveland that aren't Christian McCaffrey.
No, because the Vikings' run defense outside of DeAndre Swift has been good this year. It's that, again, now it's also the chicken and the egg. Is it good? Or actually, the argument should be it's actually been great this year. So is it a good run defense and people don't run on because they can throw all day, like the Titans, like the Commanders? So is it kind of like the chicken or the egg? Is it actually a great run defense? And DeAndre Swift's the only one who's done anything against them this year? Granted, it's the Bears, but Deonta Foreman did nothing against them. They held Isaiah Pacheco in check. They've held run defenses in check or run offenses in check the entire year. That said, at 50-50 in a Shanahan offense, I said I would take them over the Colts. I feel I would want to push them closer to the Colts because the only thing I'm giving them, if it's Shanahan and he can make everybody good and make everybody great, and even against the Vikings who have been pretty good, I just have a little bit more hesitancy. You have both of them in front of Javonte Williams, who looked 100%. Jerome Ford is kind of iffy. The thing was, this is similar to the Zach Moss situation. He had more opportunities, but Kareem Hunt got the touchdown and looked pretty to be a thorn in his side. It just a cluster F right now. Where's Baltimore playing this week? I haven't even checked. That's trying to play catch up, like I said.
Baltimore is playing someone good this week.
Detroit at home.
Yeah.
I was about to make the argument for Gus Edwards possibly higher, but this is
Detroit's actually been the good run defense.
I know. So I'd play Javonte Williams over all this mess because Javonte Williams coming back from an injury got so much work and looked good.
He did, but he was still behind McLaughlin in terms of the snap count. Basically, he turned into one of those guys that when he was on the field, he got the ball. It was kind of telegraphed.
Right.
Because I think he played 17 snaps and he had 10 carries, which absolutely demolished my 9.5 under carries. Why did they keep running the ball in the fourth quarter when they were down by 13 points? I don't know. Here you go, Javonte. Have another. That was a lot of fun. Either way, he did look better, but it's now almost like a legitimate three-way split. Like Chase McLaughlin's not going anywhere. There's no one in this offense that is going to have no one is going to have a majority of the touches in this backfield. No,
I think P.
So
Ryan.
if you're familiar, listen, it doesn't matter if P. Ryan is third on that list. He's still getting touches. If you are familiar with the parliamentary system of either Britain or even Canada or wherever it is, somewhere in the Commonwealth around the world, when you introduce first past the post type stuff, and you have to deal with pluralities in elections rather than just two people running, when there are 5 viable candidates or 4 viable candidates up for one spot, 33% might make you the winner. That's how I see the Denver backfield. This is going to be like a 40-40-20 split. I don't like that at all.
I don't think it's quite that involved for P. Ryan. But all being said, hey, I'm sleepy. I could have yelled back at you and with the whole, let me finish from 2 weeks ago, because what I was going to finish saying with Javonte Williams was, since we're in this group of conversation, Javonte Williams of Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, the Moss Taylor situation, all the Rashawn Johnson, all of them, this entire group from 19 through basically McLaughlin, is that the two floors are Javonte Williams, which is where I was going. Javonte Williams and Gus Edwards are the floors. Those are the guys that, it's probably going to be only 40 to 50% again, but at least I know what they're getting. Would it shock you? Let's go back to the 49ers. Would it shock you if 70% went to Mitchell? Would it shock you if 70% went to Jordan Mason? We've done this dance before with 49ers when it's not been Christian McCaffrey. It's just they go with somebody. Would it shock you if that happened with Roschon Johnson? And that's all I was going to get to here with what I was bringing up with Javonte Williams, was that a lot of these guys have higher ceilings, but if you just want to guarantee, the only two people in this group that's really guaranteed to have a decent day and a decent production are Williams and Edwards.
I don't even know if Edwards should be on that list. Dude touches the ball 10 times, averages 4 yards a carry, and is not involved in the passing game.
But he gets touchdown opportunities at the goal line. Sometimes.
But sometimes, some weeks it's Justice Hill who's in there. So and just to push back to say, I don't even think he's safe. Everyone in this category, Javonte Williams, not safe by any means. Jerome Ford is probably the only one a lock for touches in this spot. And Madison, who also sucks.
Indy is a good spot.
Yeah, against Indy is a good spot, but it's still going to be PJ Walker likely at quarterback.
Yeah, and Kareem Hunt got that. I mean, granted, it wasn't a goal line carry, but
listen, Kareem Hunt ran one in from 17 yards out. He played 20% of the snaps. It was a nice run, and he scored a touchdown.
Other guys playing. Point being, it's still a thorn. It's still a thorn in his side.
I mean, there were 3 running backs that don't have the thorn in your side. Ford is getting the majority of work in Cleveland.
I don't disagree with that. So. All right, yeah, it's a cluster. This is what it is. And then, of course, the Arizona, which I was looking for where Keontae Ingram was. But Keontae Ingram at 31, and then, yeah.
And I have Damian Williams at 44. And our guy, that got cut from the show last week because we spent a lot of time on DeMercado before we knew that Ingram was coming back and that Damian Williams was going to be activated. It's is this guy any good? I won so much. I went to Prize Picks, and Prize Picks left this number hanging all week. It was 59.5 receiving plus rushing yards on DeMercado. And that was available on Sunday.
Under.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know, because I'm with you. And I had 5 out of my 6 get through, and I missed it by 2 rushing yards from Trevor Lawrence. That's the second week in a row I've missed by 2 effing rushing yards on somebody.
I missed my. I played the 2-play power play. I turned 600 into 1,800 pretty quickly with Chuba Hubbard over 9.5 fantasy points or something stupid like that, and DeMercado, because those were the 2 strongest ones. So it's a nice win. You win $1,200, and then it was 150 on the 6th play. So I was like, all right, $5,000. Let's go get this. And I had Tua over 3.5 rushing yards. He was heading out. That was the only one that missed because Kendrick Bourne came through for us.
I know. Kendrick Bourne. That is one of his 4 games that he'll have for us this year.
Yeah, well, it was a great spot with Juju out and with the Super Damario out. And I know that Thornton came back.
Juju being out doesn't even matter. Yeah, Juju's irrelevant.
Yeah, but Juju's just another guy who runs the exact same routes as Kendrick Bourne.
Okay, well, that's fair. But yeah, Juju's irrelevant at this point. I was
get
looking
him off
for
the
where you
field.
had Jeff Wilson.
Oh, Jeff Wilson?
Jeff Wilson at 33.
Yeah, because even last week, they're like, well, if Jeff Wilson is activated, then he's only going to play like a maximum of 20 snaps. Now, I don't know how much that changes. And they're playing the Eagles, who are a pretty tough team. They're the number 1 run defense in football. It's them. And then
even it's going to be, it's Mostert and nobody else. I don't even, even if there was no Jeff Wilson, I wouldn't even screw around with Ahmed.
Not fooling around with Ahmed?
No, I meant I wouldn't even you have Jeff Wilson at 33.
Yeah.
I would play Zeke over Ahmed with no Jeff Wilson. I'd play Justice Hill over him.
These guys kind of reek is the problem.
I know they do, but I want to start the second piece against the Eagles.
Zeke, yeah, but I would rather play the second piece in an offense that could theoretically score 50 points versus the second piece in an offense that would probably be lucky to score 10 points.
Yeah, but it's the second piece that Zeke gets the goal line carries. Ahmed's not.
Yeah, but there's no... I'm not playing Ahmed. I'm playing Jeff Wilson. And Jeff Wilson is...
Oh, I know. I said Ahmed if there was no Wilson.
Sure, but I think that the coaching staff does treat Wilson a little bit different. Salvon Ahmed is a guy who's been a healthy scratch this year. He is their backup to the backup to the backup. And Jeff Wilson, coming into the season, they drafted A-Chain to, I guess, be their 1B or 1A, depending on how you see it. But Jeff Wilson was still firmly in that mix before he went on injured reserve. I have Mostert at number 5 in a tough matchup. Just because you have to think that the offense is still... And look, man, I know that the Eagles' D is pretty good, but they would just miss 4 guys on defense this week. I don't know how healthy they're going to be. Maybe they kept them out this week so they could play the Dolphins. Maybe they should have played them this week if they were healthy enough to play. I don't know. Maybe then they could have beat the Jets in New York. But I think that Miami and the Eagles are just going to post some numbers this week. I like the over in that game. I understand that Miami can get some pressure, but they still have a sieve defense. And with the way that the Eagles have been looking right now, they can still generate pressure, but they're not immune to giving up a bunch of points too against a high-powered offense like this. That when it comes down to it, and again, there's 6 teams on bye and there's injuries. In a normal week with a full complement of players, Jeff Wilson's let's put 10 guys in between him. Then he's 44, and then we don't have a problem with anything. However, in this game, with a run-heavy team, working him back into the mix, we've seen him steal goal line carries all throughout last season, the moment that he ended up on the team that... Listen, he could have 0 points. I'm not going to deny that. But he is someone who could score 2 touchdowns at the same time. Where with Zeke, he only got run against the Raiders the moment that Ramondre went down. And then when Ramondre came back, we didn't see Zeke again.
Okay. So there you go. There's another one I need to catch up on. That I didn't realize that Zeke was only out there for when Ramondre got yanked out of the game.
Yeah, and he played well, actually, when Ramondre was out. And then Ramondre came back in, and they started passing to Ramondre every day. It was just, they had 2 plays. Pass to Kendrick Bourne, pass to Ramondre. That's it.
It worked, right? It worked at least in that game. Man, I'm not going to get to sleep in again tonight. I'm going to be catching up on the NFL Plus. At least that you can watch the game. What does it take? About 20 minutes for me to get through those games? 20 times. Yeah, I'm going to be up till 3 o'clock tonight.
You know what the key is? Watch them at 1.5 speed.
Do they have a 1.25?
I don't know.
Because the play is kind of just a little you can watch.
Is it too fast?
Only because if you're trying to especially for routes, I tried it before, and the problem is if you're trying to keep your eye on 2 or 3 wide receivers at the same time, you end up having to roll it back, and that defeats the purpose of the 1.5. I actually watch a ton of crap on YouTube at 1.5. I love 1.5, but 1.25 I feel like you could watch a little bit quicker, but still be able to pay attention. I'll find out. And report back to you tonight.
Oh, yeah, you let me know. I don't watch... there are some things, so I'm just watching the video. Anything that has audio that I need to listen to along with it, I listen to at 1x speed. I think it's disrespectful to listen to podcasts at different speeds.
Podcast is different. Like, so there's a for everybody Death Battle on YouTube. They take like animated characters and superheroes, and they're like, yeah, if they fought, who would win? I actually always watch that at 1.5 speed. When I put it back down to 1 speed, it sounds like they're drunk. It's because it sounds like they're talking like this. I'm so used to hearing it at 1.5.
I've met listeners of the show who listen to everything at 1.5 speed or even 2x speed, which just sounds like I talk fast anyway. You and I do
Holy
talk fast.
Hell.
So I
Yes.
can't imagine. I mean, not that you really want to take advice from me, so maybe you slow it down for Jake. I don't know about that. But they're like, you sound drunk. I was like, this is how I talk. You don't listen to the show the right way. Like it sounds like it's more of a you problem than a me problem.
Than a me problem? I don't know. I was actually I'm looking right now. I'm pulling up NFL Plus to see if there is a 1.5, just so I can report back to you. Where's the speed? Here we go. 1.25. Perfect. This is gonna be great. Yeah, so you can tell I've actually never used the increased speed before.
I just shaved 25% off your watching time. Now you can go to bed at 1:30.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
See, this is why.
So wait, is the line of demarcatoation because nobody got to hear that last week now anymore? Is that just basically like everybody's irrelevant after that?
I mean, he's at 51 now. He's third on the. Although I think he played the most snaps of all the running backs. They were just like, "You're not touching the ball, pal. Take a hike."
Did he? I'm so curious. I'll pull that up while we're continuing to talk. I'm kind of curious. So they didn't get to hear. They didn't hear the line of demarcatoation. They didn't hear this desperado. They didn't hear you yell at them. You didn't yell at you yell up at the graphics.
That is true. People were complaining that the graphics, we were using like my back end of the rankings on the website, so I can update it in real time. That's the reason that we're doing it. And because we released the show a day early, that we just don't have time to build the graphics anymore because we need to get the show out, and I need to have this for TV for tonight as well. So I did tell people that if you do want full graphics for the show, that means I have to hire someone else who is local. So I broke it down in terms of monetary budget. Now, there is a week gone because I did it for last week's budget, so I've updated it. So it would probably take, because we can't put the graphics in real time, they need to be built after we're done with all of this. So someone needs to build them, then go back into the show and put them in. So let's call it an hour to be here, an hour to build the graphics. Even if you could build them in real time, let's call that a half hour. We'll call that one a 30. So we'll call it 90 minutes right there. And then to go back through the show to watch it and put the graphics in, we'll call that another 90. So we're up to 3 hours right now. Export in hours, 4 hours. Upload, processing, getting the show out and transferring it to the TV network. We got 6 hours on that. I'd say conservatively, the lowest I could pay someone to do that is $75 an hour. Conservatively, and they would have to be local in order to do that, and I would miss my Monday time slot for the show. So that's another $1,000 right there. So we're at $1,450 times 11. If someone would we say if I said a GoFundMe, whatever it is, but if someone wants to send me $16,000, I will put the graphics back in the show.
That's a savings from last week.
It is, because I
don't know about it.
Because I said $75 instead of $150, which is probably closer to what the average rate would be per hour for someone to come in and do that. See, this shit ain't cheap.
And also in that time,
it's cheap when Paul and I do it.
DeMarcado, 45% of the snaps and
2 touches.
12.5% of the 12.5% of the touches, 3 touches actually. There's a third in there. He got a target and 2 rushes.
Oh, good for him. A target.
A reception.
Didn't even realize
and a reception.
That. Yeah. So anyway, someone PayPal me $16,000 and boom, you can have your precious graphics back. Or we can just do it this way. Or you can just click on Or you can just click on the rankings and follow along with it yourself. That sounds easy.
I can't read black on white paper, Pat.
Yeah, that's too tough for me. I am an idiot. I can't figure it out. Smash a like while you're here, by the way. DraftKings Listeners League, now available down in the description as well. So go and sub to the channel and rate and review the podcast. Good ones, though. We don't want you fucking morons out there being like, 1 star, Pat made me feel bad. It's because you're an idiot. That's not my fault. It's your parents' fault. Or maybe it's your fault. Maybe you're like Mark Schlereth, whose pastime is banging his head against concrete. If you did that for 18 straight years, there's a chance you're a fucking moron. Maybe that's you. I hope it's not, but I don't know. Seek help or something. I can't help you.
If they're that dumb, if they're cavemen and that dumb, they don't know how to use the computer anyway. So there you go. You're good.
We're good news. Maybe they're watching at 1.5 speed and they just miss me talking about it. Who knows? They're you. If you weren't in this if you weren't in this industry, you'd be like, that Alvin and the Chipmunks fucking voice, Pat Mayo. Fuck, I hate you. Where are your rankings? It's because you're not listening.
Stop spending all your money on your graphics for the thumbnails.
Yeah. Sure, the one this week is good, huh?
It's terrific this week.
Wide receiver injuries for week number 6. I got Debo is out, although the X-rays came back negatory on him. Alec Pierce looks like he's like hurt. Looks like his shoulder came out of the socket, but anyway. Justin Watson exited the game. There's no significant damage, but it doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Laviska Shenault, Chris Moore got wiped out in the London game. That was terrifying. The guy who hit him got ejected from the game. So Shenault, Chris Moore, Quez Watkins, Juju, Traylon Burks is on bye this week. Demario Douglas, Super Demario. I have it all as out. Tank Dell missed the game, but he's on bye this week. I do have Zay Jones back in the rankings, and I do have Deontay Johnson back in the rankings, who should be coming around this week. Your guy, Deontay Johnson. So I have, Tyreek, Kupp, Diggs, Allen, Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Puka is the top 10. And then we're into DK, Evans, Christian Watson, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin. Those are the top 20 in the rankings. Then you have Lockett, Ridley, Drake, Hollywood Brown, Zay Flowers, Gabe Davis, and then it's Deontay Johnson in at number 27 coming off the injury. That's around the range of Amari Cooper, Kendrick Bourne, George Pickens, Pittman, Thomas. Pittman would be higher, but that's an awful matchup against Cleveland. And then like Curtis Samuel's been great, by the way. Just want to shout
He's
that
been
out.
like the only good one. Terry McLaurin's been boomer bust. Jahan Dawson doesn't exist in Sam Howell's mind. So I don't know if it finished that way, but I know I checked in during that game around the third and looked at the routes
0.
run. I think it was routes run, but like the times targeted once in the first half. I know that like Sam Howell just doesn't look at him. And of course it was the drop, and everybody's like, well, because he dropped that. It's like it was before that. He wasn't targeting him, period. But yes, all points being is that Curtis Samuel has been good. The funny thing was, I initially was looking at your ranks, and I'm like, how high is he going to put Adam Thielen? And I was like, oh, wait, that's right. He's not in Minnesota anymore. He's on a bye for camp. My brain's catching up still, just as an apology.
Well, I won 10K on DraftKings yesterday, Jake, thanks to Mr. Adam Thielen. He's my guy now.
Isn't he been number one over the past 4 weeks, 3 weeks?
He's basically Cooper Kupp light.
Is it even light?
Yeah, because he doesn't get quite the yardage that Cooper Kupp gets. Like Adam Thielen runs the same like 13-yard route every single time,
and it's worked so far.
He's just open.
I mean, it just continues. He's just he's take that chain of Jamar Chase, 7-Eleven always open. Did you see that Jamar Chase had that stupid chain on?
I did. But when I first saw it, I didn't see that it said 7-Eleven. I just thought it said 9/11. I was like, why is he wearing a 9/11 necklace? That's really strange. And then I looked at it again. I was like, okay, that makes more sense, because that probably wouldn't have went over well, I would guess.
Do you have Christian Watson so high just because of the matchup?
Yes.
Because Jordan Love's looked like before the bye.
Jordan Love looked like shit against the Raiders. Then he was like two. Christian Watson was one step away from like an 80-yard touchdown in that game. It was just a bit overthrown. He was like 2 steps away from another one in that game. Like they're taking the shots with Watson. It's gonna happen.
Sure, but I was gonna say, what's the difference between him and Devonta Smith? Like, is DJ Moore? I don't know, because we haven't got your quarterbacks yet. Do you have Justin Fields in, or do you have Badgett?
I have Badgett.
Okay. No, I was gonna say, like, I would just play DJ Moore at this
His name is Bagnet.
Is it really Bagnet?
No, it's not.
I thought it was Bagent.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Like Dragnet?
Yeah, it'd be
where you're going
more fun.
with that one?
It'd be more fun if it was that way, but here we are.
But because doing this as right now, I just saw the tweet come out where Justin Fields is officially doubtful for this week.
Well, I mean, they said the X-rays were negative, but he has a dislocated thumb on his throwing hand. That sounds impossible to be playing quarterback with.
I mean, he doesn't throw that much to begin with.
That's true. Just make him a running back. He'll be fine. It's just like Chris Olave. Like Chris Olave is putting up like decent points every single week, like decent, but he should have it was Mike Clay's expected touchdowns. I don't know how that works in terms of like targeting or the methodology behind it, but just from watching these Saints games, now a lot of it has to do with like Derek Carr kind of being trash, but he's dropped 2 long touchdowns, like hit him in the hand, old school Julio Jones style. Remember everyone always complained that Julio Jones wouldn't catch touchdowns, but then you'd watch the game and be like, oh, he just dropped this like 70-yard bomb in the end zone, and then he'd make up for it with like 11 catches throughout the game. But you're like, but he dropped that one. That was the valuable one.
Well, and the fact was, the perception, it was like Julio Jones had the one season of 3 touchdowns, or maybe it was 2, but the rest were usually like 5, 6, 7, 8. So it wasn't always that bad. But to your point, it isn't. I had Chris Olave as a nice buy low last week, Thursday night this week. I mean, people are going to come for you. People are going to say Chris Olave is too high. I don't really care. And
I mean,
looking down your ranks,
you think I care about these people? Oh, I'm sorry. He's not. I'm sorry. He's not ranked. I'm sorry. He's not ranked 14th. He's ranked 9th. Why don't you play your other? I'm sorry. Your team consists of Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you can't play Chris Olave. Oh, my heart breaks for you.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring up something further down in your list because I don't have a lot of problems with your rankings, but it was spot on last week. I'm going to continue to hit this. What happened last week with no Zay Jones? Calvin Ridley wasn't the one. Christian Kirk was. Christian Kirk is the one when there's no Zay Jones. But when Zay Jones plays, Calvin Ridley goes back to being the one. You can look at the game log so far. It's been every single time. Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, then Kirk. And then when there is no Zay Jones, it's Kirk, then Ridley. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why the usage falls that way. But I'm not going to destroy Kirk. Like, I'm not throwing Kirk all the way down by Jerry Jeudy. But with Zay Jones in your ranks,
no, I actually don't. I actually said I don't have him in there. I said that I did have him in. I don't. That's why I have Christian Kirk at 18.
Then
but yes,
perfectly okay.
Yeah. So if he was in, and he plays on Thursday night, so we'll know this, and we don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to play. It does sound like he's going to play. But in that game, I think I would throw him down. I mean, the Jerry Jeudy range is probably where he's at. Like, I don't see like the same sort of volatility that you see with Christian Kirk when Zay Jones is playing, because a lot of it has to do with the touchdown equity. Zay Jones is just utilized in the red zone, and Christian Kirk isn't when Zay Jones is playing. It's when Christian Kirk is out there by himself with Calvin Ridley. Ridley gets all the coverage. All of a sudden, you have Christian Kirk, boom, finding the end zone. He becomes Shaheed and Romeo Doubs and one of those guys in terms of how much he's probably going to score.
Exactly, 100%. That's where I was going. Agree with you. And back up your ranks.
Deontay?
Atlanta's. Yeah, I think Deontay's fair for where he's coming back. Unless we get reports. I mean, of course, we're doing this on Monday. And get reports that he's going to be eased back in. You know, if he's going to be eased back in and he's only going to get half the snaps, then I think that's a little risky, especially because Kenny Pickett is terrible. And the Rams have been pretty good this year. Not fearsome. Not like, oh my God, don't start your wide receivers against the Rams. But the Rams' entire team, offense and defense, has been better this year.
Yeah, I also have Daniel Jones out for this one, so I have Tyrod in. So that just means Wendell Robinson and Darius Slayton.
Wendell Robinson, Darren Waller, if they get to the fourth quarter. Like, can you play like a prop fourth quarter only for Darren Waller for the Giants decide that he exists finally? It's the opposite of John Dotson. John Dotson only exists in the first quarter. Darren Waller only exists in the fourth quarter. The interesting one, I think, that is play here. And where do you have Darius Slayton versus, you have Slayton at 44. Where did you, I know he's going way down the ranks, but Jalen Hyatt is going to be too low for where you have him. I have a feeling right now. 83. The production wasn't there.
It wasn't.
But it wasn't so much different than Wendell Robinson on the yards per reception. And Jalen Hyatt's, at least they're taking shots downfield. They took 2 big shots. Neither of them came down. But your argument that you like to make a lot of time, and I'm not saying like you're wrong to have him at 83, but the argument that you would say is that, you know what, if he hits one of those, I would take the shot of Odell Beckham at this point. I would take him over Devin Tompkins. Like, really, Jalen Hyatt, if that snap, it's basically Donovan Peoples-Jones at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would say he's closer to Jamison Williams in that regard.
Well, Jamison Williams was 2 up spots from Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah. But
so 61, 62, 63 is where I would put Hyatt.
But I'll be
right in that range.
But I think that Hyatt also either has Daniel Jones or Tyrod throwing to him, and that's, I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones might have PJ Walker throwing to him, so I guess I can see your point on that.
There
one.
you go. That's where I'm going.
But Jamison Williams, like, it's going to be one shot or nothing. I think that the bet, like with all, I don't want to play any of these guys. Like, I have Ronnie Bell ranked ahead of them right now, and Ronnie Bell is going to be like the third receiver for the 49ers if Debo is out. That's who I'd rather play than any of these bums who just run go routes down the field. What you want to do, because you can rig same game parlays this way, because the algorithm can't figure out what's going on, is that you bet under receptions on Hyatt and Jamison Williams and all these like big play ADOT guys, but bet over yardage. And it just like explodes the system, and all of a sudden you get like 90-1 odds. That's what I would rather do than play these guys in my fantasy lineups.
I mean, I don't disagree with that either. I was just telling if you need Hail Mary shots down in this range, but I, of course, like that thought process even more.
Yeah, it's very interesting because sometimes like they just don't correlate the right way, and that's an anti-correlation play. But you can see how it makes sense, right? Like Tyreek Hill used to kind of be the king of this. It'd be like, oh yeah, under 7.5 receptions, over 200 yards for Tyreek Hill. He is sort of like the most extreme example of that, but where you can find the real values actually in the Hyatts of the world and these just big play. I bet you Quentin Johnson. You know what? That's something that we can do. We can go Quentin Johnson Monday Night Football under receptions over yardage and see how that works out.
Did he get pulled because of the Josh Palmer thing? But if he's out there, I agree with you.
Is he not playing? Like he's not.
No, Josh Palmer's iffy. He popped up yesterday. I did see that. He popped up Sunday with all of a sudden iffy for Monday night. So I didn't know if that line I didn't know if both of them got pulled from a lot of sites.
This I do not know. Let's see. NFL. I can go do this at DraftKingsSportsbook.com. That's where everyone should do their wagering, by the way. I guess if you were doing the prize pick stuff, I had a bad week for like sports betting props because I tried to play too many same game parlays. If I just stuck to the individual props, I would have been fine. So you used the prop sniper at Run the Sims, right?
Yeah, I did, actually. I used the prop sniper, and that's how I got 5 out of my 6 in stupid Trevor Lawrence. That wasn't even on... To be fair, Trevor Lawrence wasn't even on the prop sniper when I made my 6. That was a call by somebody else that I saw that I trusted I shouldn't have. Now, to be fair, Trevor Lawrence got hurt in the fourth quarter and obviously didn't run after that.
Yeah, he wasn't going to... I don't think he was going to be running too much like up 17 in the fourth quarter either, in fairness.
No, but he could have taken one scramble for 2 yards is all I needed, so...
That's true. Let's see here. Do we have, Quentin Johnson receiving yards? We can go over 30.5, and then we can go to Quentin Johnson receptions under 3.5, which sounds like pretty plausible. So we go through it, and that pays 2-1. So that one's not a great one to go because it's 3.5. But
that's not one. No.
But if you had one that was like a little bit higher, or you could play, can you play alternates with him? Quentin Johnson receptions.
Possibly can't.
There we go. There we go. Now we can go under 2.5 receptions for Quentin Johnson, over 30 yards, 11-1.
What if he did under 3.5 and like pushed up his yards to like 50?
I don't see an option for that to become available. They don't have him on the ladder, unfortunately. If you could, like, I guess the other, like, who's running the deep routes for Dallas? Is it Gallup?
It still cooks at times.
Right.
It's the mix between them, but Gallup's been more successful as of late.
So let's say over 60 yards for Michael Gallup. And I'm not saying I'm playing these. These are just like...
Does it work the other way as you're doing this? Like, can you do over receptions and under yards for Jake Ferguson?
Yeah, you probably could. Let's see. Jake Ferguson receptions over 3.5, and then Jake Ferguson under yardage is what you want?
Yeah.
Jake.
Because he catches like 2 yards at a time.
Yeah, they don't have him on the ladders either. It works easier with the under receptions over because some players you'll get the over, like the ladder over. So I can be like, hey, I want Michael Gallup under 2.5 catches, but I want him over 70 yards or something like that when his over under, like you play extreme yardage and under receptions. Like, yeah, if you go over 3.5 receptions but under 35.5 yards for Jake Ferguson, it's actually 7-1.
Yeah, so there you go.
So yeah, just different like that. The point is, you can like manipulate the same game parlay to give you bigger odds.
Jake
than
Ferguson's only got like 8 yards a catch this year. I think I was trying to pull it up later. 8.8. Yeah, so there you go. 8.8 yards a catch.
And people will tell you that playing unders is no fun, but they tend to win more often than overs do.
I do better with unders than I do with overs.
Me too.
I hit Juju Smith-Schuster under for like 5 straight weeks. That was hell of fun. I'm actually mad he was out.
The biggest thing, though, if you do want to use the prop sniper, we've created our own package for it at Run the Sims. It's just much cheaper than the entire suite of tools. It's just prop betting. It'll just give you a list of props, where the best odds are of those props, prize picks, and underdog at the same time. So runthesims.com/rank or code ranks for Jake, and you get 10% off. So I would highly recommend that you go do that if you're curious about the prop betting market. Like I'm not going to lie to you, Jake. I much prefer just like betting props and playing fantasy at this point.
I like doing both, but I like playing it. I've done more on the prop betting than DFS lately.
Do you have anything else to say about wide receivers? Because again, in a week that's so thin that unless you're like grabbing for sleepers, it's just going to be tough to find anyone. Like if you had to play one Chiefs receiver, why is it Rashee Rice?
Because he's the only one doing anything with the passes that come in his way. And the biggest thing holding Rashee Rice back was the snap count, but now the Justin Watt. that Justin Watson was actually part of the reason Rice went up was after Watson got hurt. So I don't know if that's a 1-for-1 that he was playing a similar role, but no, it is Rashee Rice at this point. There's no question about that.
2 sleepers I will give you that are widely available that in a pinch, if you do need them this week, I think that they have the potential to do something for your lineup. Don't hold me to this one in terms of their locks to do it. One is Braxton Berrios against the Eagles, just because I do think that, much like the Jeff Wilson point where there's opportunity in that game, 4 points at the Eagles, they're going to have to spend a lot of attention on Tyreek. They're going to have to spend a lot of attention on Jalen Waddle. The Berrios just kind of runs 10-yard routes, and he's open all the time. That if under duress, I can see that being a very quick out for Tua in that game. Is just Berrios, and listen, dude returns. He has returned punts in the past. He's pretty shifty. He's not like the other guys on the team in terms of shiftiness or speed, but that doesn't mean he's slow at the same time, and he's just a forgotten about option on that team who plays a bunch of snaps. Ray McLeod would be the other one at 55. He was actually the receiver who played the second most amount of snaps for the 49ers after Debo went out of that game, which I was super surprised about.
Yeah, so go, and you talked long enough for me to be able to pull this up too. Something we've been talking about the entire. I appreciate that. Was perfect. The snap that we talked about, I think week 1 or 2. It was week 2 because it already happened in week 1. People were like, "Oh, it's so quick to say that after 1 week." I'm like, no. I'm evaluating the Eagles' defense on a talent from top-bottom perspective. Their secondary is questionable, especially against slot and tight ends. And what have slot receivers and tight ends done to them this entire year? They played a little bit better last week, but that's what I was looking up. And Cedric Wilson is actually not only 59.4% of the time at the slot, he's the only Dolphins wide receiver who's even been in the slot over 30% of the time. Tyreek Hill's right at 30%. The second closest is Durham Smythe at tight end.
So there we go. So maybe Cedric Wilson's the play.
Cedric Wilson, 30% of the time. But no, my point being, I like the Braxton Berrios.
Yeah, Berrios is kind of one of those guys that when he's on the field, they actually do use him. Where Cedric Wilson seems to be like a one-play-a-game guy. Like, you get your shot, Cedric.
Did Ray McLeod, this is, I can tell you right now because I was on a plane, San Francisco, did Ray McLeod return this week?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did Ray McLeod actually return this week? He did. He played.
Yeah, he played more snaps than Juwan Jennings did.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because they play the similar slot option type of role, and that was the whole conversation about Ronnie Bell that one night, which I'm still celebrating the hell out of this, calling that for the first touchdown of the night because it replaced the Ayuk. But yeah, okay, yeah, I like the Ronnie Bell call or Ray McLeod call. Yeah,
I mean, listen, I'm not saying go out and play Ray McLeod. I'm saying that if you're in a league, you have injuries, you need a wide receiver this week, and everyone's gone. Like, I played a 14-man league with a 7-person bench. Like, there's legit no one available to go pick up. You know who is? Ray McLeod.
Quez Watkins. He's probably out there.
Well, he did. I guess you could play Zacchaeus by that means, because I don't know if
he recovered a touchdown though, so that you gonna bank on that again.
Quez Watkins didn't play last week, so I don't know if he's gonna play this week.
Brandon Powell's still out there. They went to him a couple times.
They did. That offense looks bad without Justin Jefferson, man. Like, really
what
bad.
A shock.
Yeah.
What a shock.
Like, Addison.
Kirk Cousins looked bad.
Yeah. The receivers didn't look good either. Like, Addison got himself open to the back of the end zone, but that's really all he did. He had, 3 catches and a touchdown? Like, thanks.
That's one I don't even need to NFL Plus because I was watching a lot. I was watching where Addison was and to see how many times he was open if Kirk Cousins was hitting him. The frustrating thing is actually it looks like Kirk Cousins is going to be first read a lot to KJ Osborne before he gets to Addison.
Well, Addison wasn't getting any separation. I mean, maybe you can confirm that when you go back and watch it, but from when I was watching that game, it's just like he's not blowing people away here. He looked gimped up a little bit, like there was a problem with his knee or ankle or foot or something. It didn't look like he was hitting full speed, so maybe there'll be reports that come out about that. I don't know. However,
I don't know if there's hesitation because I saw the same. That's what I was saying. I don't need to go back. I saw similar. He got into space, but yeah, your separation point. There were some that were run plays that he kind of just jogged off, he didn't sell it. He didn't sell that it wasn't going to be a run play. And that's why I wonder if your theory is right, that there's something else, or Is it just a rookie thing? I go back all the way. You and I talked about back with Marquise Lee. My biggest thing about Marquise Lee when he came out of college, he was lazy. He was so good, so much better than everybody else in college. He was just like, well, I'll do the same thing in the NFL. I don't need to be precise. I don't need to be explosive and sell things. And then it took him a few years to get there. I'm not saying that's happened with Jordan Addison yet, but there was some. You're right in the fact that there was definitely something not right about Addison that last week.
Tight end rankings for the week. Once again, I urge you all, because it starts this week in week 7, to play in the Restart Survivor League. It is free to play. There's $5,000 to the winner. LeagueSafe.com/thepme to go join. Takes less than 45 seconds, or just click on the handy link down in the description of this video or this podcast right now. Thank you very much. Please go do that and share it around too. The more people we get into this, the better. Honestly, it's going to be fantastic. If we can get a ton of people in it this year for this restart by week 1 next year, I mean, I don't want to say there'd be like $50,000 to first or $100,000 to first, but I'm not saying it's out of the question if we can put in a good showing with a lot of people this time around. All right? LeagueSafe.com/thepme, or just hit the description right now. No, /PME, not the PME, PME. And we can go do that. Don't want to mess up the hyperlink there. Tight end, you got... are we calling Kyle... Is Kyle Pitts back in the circle of trust, or is he on the tier 2 of trust? Because I think we're looking at Kelsey, Laporta, Andrews, and Hawkinson. Those are your 4 that are trustworthy this week. Then you got Goddard and Ingram, who I feel like are on a mini tier of their own of trustworthiness. Then you have Kittle, Waller, Pitts, Logan Thomas. I have Freiermuth returning this week. Like, Kittle's not trustworthy at all.
I don't think Waller or either. If Evan Ingram is just a floor.
Yeah, well, listen, Evan Ingram is going to go 6 for 42 with no touchdowns every week, and he's going to end up as tight end 5.
I give him more yards per reception. I was going to throw out 5 for 55, so we're not that far off. But floor play, Kittle not trustworthy, although I do like Kittle more. We'll probably have word, but you brought up the Deebo Samuel. Is no Deebo Samuel. It just condenses the target share that usually is the problem with George Kittle, is that he's not in the days where we used to love him because he was getting 20-25% of the team's targets. But I think Kittle and Waller are fine in that tier, as you were saying. I'm not ready to put Pitts back in the circle of trust. Logan Thomas was a big miss for me last week because, hey, I sat here and I even said it to you. Like, when Logan Thomas is healthy, just play him. Did nothing. Sam Howell didn't even really go to him too much in that game, but I think that's a fair comparison for Kyle Pitts. Is you are low-end tight end 1s, this could be a week where Kyle Pitts doesn't even get it. It's freaking Jonnu Smith again. Jonnu Smith first touchdown. I didn't hear it because we were in the middle of packing, dude, but it was the first touchdown. They said something like first touchdown since 2019 or something ridiculous like that for Jonnu.
Since the Regan era, I think.
So anyway, yes, Kyle Pitts within the Logan Thomas conversation. I think that's a fair tier for him. I see Taysom Hill at 15. That's what screwed up Chris Olave too. By the way, team target leader Taysom Hill last week.
Seven catches for Taysom Hill. Great work. Listen to the Texans, the Saints. They're fucking morons. They're a terrible team.
Like, what a shock that you lost. You deserve to lose that game. Like, what does Taysom Hill have on this team? To get that contract and to keep doing this?
I mean, he's just a good dude. Maybe people like him. It's just like that.
No. We're watching Suits.
There's the Breakfast Club with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, and Puka joined them at their Breakfast Club. Maybe Taysom's just in a Breakfast Club with everyone. Everyone just loves the guy.
No, I was going to compare it to Suits. He's got something on him. Because I watched it by myself. Nicole had never seen it. Now we're rewatching it. We're like halfway through the entire series. He's got somebody. Taysom Hill has something on someone. He's got something for sure. Maybe. I don't mind Suits because my wife and I have been watching it too. Although when you watch a show with someone of that profession, like my wife is a lawyer, so she's like, that wouldn't happen in a law office. Like, I don't care. It's a fucking TV show. Like, apparently it's really bad with like doctors in any medical show. They're like, well, they wouldn't do that in a hospital. It's like, it's a TV show. You don't have to do it in the hospital, but they can do it on TV. Although I enjoy Suits. It's a fun watch. It is like the dumb person's Mad Men. Like, just watch Mad Men. If you haven't watched Mad Men, just watch Mad Men. I could definitely see that. Yeah, like, it's easy. Dumb person is probably just a very stark way of putting it. It is a very highly digestible version of Mad Men, where Mad Men requires you to actually, like, watch the show. I got you. I think it's enjoyable. I could see why he hasn't acted. The guy who played Harvey, I was looking this up. I was like, whatever happened to him? He hasn't played anything since that show because he wanted to take a break. And I could see why, because he's basically angry and pissed off every he's you, Pat. He's angry and pissed off every show. Yeah, probably just needs a refresher to get out of it. Yeah, when was the last time you saw Pat Mayo take a break? Never. You get on the golf course. That's your happy place, right?
Yeah, but then I come film a show after. And I'm all riled up from having a poor round of golf.
You're going to be the happiest person in the world when you finally retire.
I don't know about that. I like working every single day. I am going on a vacation.
You like getting angry?
Yeah, I do. I only get angry on the show. As I told everyone in my life, my wife, everyone, they're like, you're very calm these days. It's like, yeah, I have my hour a day where I get to be angry. It makes good content. Then I don't need to be angry anymore.
I mean, to be fair, what the off chance that I saw you in Toronto, because you wouldn't socialize a lot when I was in Toronto, but you weren't angry when you weren't doing the show.
No, never.
Unless you were trying to export something, then that was a whole nother world. That was don't bother Pat if he's in the middle of video editing.
That's true, because I was trying to get my video editing done as quickly as possible, because I didn't want to have to pay $17,000. I was saving the company $17,000 a show.
It all comes full circle.
Quarterbacks, I think it's pretty obvious this week. Who do I not have in the rankings here? I do not have
Justin Fields.
I do not have Justin Fields in the rankings. That is correct. I do have Lawrence in. I don't have Garoppolo in. I spelled Ryan Tannehill wrong, but he's on bye anyway, so he's not playing. I don't have Daniel Jones, and I don't have Deshaun Watson in. Do you think that there's more going on with this Deshaun Watson thing? This all seems really bizarre.
It does seem really bizarre. I mean, again, we're in the middle of Stews. I think there's always something going on. So it's weird because it wasn't really talked about much before the injury came up, and then it's all of a sudden like, he's out for a month, and it's just like, really? Like, it does seem weird, but I don't know what to put. I don't know what to put on it, and there's no actual information outside of the fact that this offense is hurting with anybody. That's not. It wasn't that good with Deshaun Watson, and now it's even worse. So, PJ Walker at 21st, yeah. I don't know where are you gonna put PJ Walker in your ranks anyway? You have in front of Russell Wilson. That's funny though. I like that.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts is number 1 against Miami this week. Justin Herbert is number 2. Did you know Justin Herbert's number 1 points per game now? That's before he plays on Monday night. But I was surprised by that.
I know, because he's the only consistent option I have in my home league. The only league that I'm not over 500, and it's pissing me the flipping hell off because it's my home league. But Justin Herbert's on my team, and I know that because that's the only trade piece I have right now. Because everybody's inconsistent as F.
So if you need to pick anyone up this week, the answer to the test is either Sam Howell or Jordan Love. I have them at 7 and 8 in the rankings. Just great matchups. Jordan Love was the other one who really surprised me in points per game. Even though he's like not good, he's a great fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, but that's only because the touchdown rate was off the charts. And
he runs too. That's always helpful.
Okay, that's fair. I would still play Brock Purdy over him. I mean, it's only one spot, but I would still play Purdy over him, especially against Minnesota. Jared Goff outdoors, I wouldn't play over Love, although he looked okay last week. So here's one I haven't caught up on yet. Did Jared Goff just go ham in the second half? Because it was super quiet. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm checking back in, and it's like 300 yards for Jared Goff. I'm like, what the hell happened?
So here's what happened. I don't think they trusted Craig Reynolds to run out the clock in the game. So there was 2 big plays in the second half. One was there was like a 55-yard just bomb to Jamison Williams. Great catch. He adjusted midair, fell with it in the end zone. So there's a big chunk of it right there. But when they started to run out the game at the very end, instead of turning around and handing the ball off to Craig Reynolds a whole bunch of times, they legitimately just ran 6-yard routes with the Amon-Ra down the field.
So there you go. Well, like just blew up.
Old school Patriots style, where in the non-Corey Dillon years of the Patriots, when they basically didn't have a running back, but it would be like, oh yeah, Deion Branch for 5 yards. Like that was their running game. As they tried to close out games, that's all the Lions did. It was just like, Amon-Ra's open every single time. Let's just throw to him and keep the clock going.
The quarterback is gross this week, by the way.
Aiden O'Connell, number 12.
It's not. It's so even like decent quarterbacks that just have terrible matchups too. I mean, because you have Kirk Cousins who doesn't look good, as we already mentioned, with no Justin Jefferson. And he's got the 49ers defense. So, wow. I know this is like nitpicking down here. I think I'd trust Russell Wilson over a handful of them, but I mean, I don't even care this week, honestly.
Denver plays.
Like, I don't care to argue it that much.
Well, a lot of it is just like Green Bay's D is actually pretty good.
It is.
And they're coming
off. You want
to
talk about throwing 3 yards at a time. Russell Wilson.
Sure, but I mean, Goff also has the upside of he has guys that, like Jerry Jeudy is that now there's the guy that we should play over receptions under yardage. Jerry Jeudy. He's going to have 38 catches for 6 yards. No, you should play
under everything. They might not put him on the field. They barely played him because of these trade rumors.
I think Steve Smith may have eviscerated those trade rumors.
What happened? What did I miss?
Oh, you need to go and watch. It was before the Thursday night game last week on the field, and Steve Smith just went off on Jerry Jeudy. I'm like, he sucks. You shouldn't trade for him.
Oh wow!
Like he's just another guy.
Steve Smith is just salty.
Beer face. Love Steve Smith. Like I'm glad that he is real. All the ex-players, all they ever want to say is how great the other current players are. Like, oh yeah, he's great. Oh, he's such a good guy. Steve Smith's like, no, he doesn't try. He's like, he doesn't put in any work. He doesn't try. I wouldn't trade for him.
No, I
telling you how it is.
There's a handful of players like the one that we brought up last week that I can't remember who he was referencing or what was said, and somebody told us afterwards. I saw in the comments or whatever it was. But point being, I have no problem with that. I like telling it how it is. I like being honest. But with Steve Smith, somebody pissed in his coffee for his entire NFL career because he hates everybody. He's just a hater.
Hey, that's how he had. That was the motivation that he used to succeed. When you're like 5'8" and you might be
sorry, you're not going to get in the Hall of Fame. You don't have to hate everybody because of it.
Hey, maybe he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Hall of bitchiness.
Well, this came up. We were watching the show. Of all current running backs, how many of them do you think get into the Hall of Fame that are currently playing?
Current?
Henry and McCaffrey, maybe? Like
so
they're the only two with a shot?
Like as of right now?
As of today, because Peterson will get in. But
Eckler?
No, not a chance. I
mean, that's why I said with a question mark. I threw the question mark on it.
I don't know if McCaffrey ends up getting in, but if McCaffrey doesn't get in, Eckler sure as shit not getting in.
McCaffrey's getting in. I would definitely think McCaffrey. I would definitely think Henry. Barkley's missed too much and needs too much more left in his career because you're saying as of today, Nick Chubb, if he didn't get hurt, I think could have been pushing for it.
Zeke? No.
Because here's the thing. You got to remember, like I know what you're saying, but we go back to what was my argument of why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not making the argument why the other players should be. I'm just saying the fact that Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame. Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame because the Super Bowl. Like the 3-year stretch, he had a 3-year stretch. The other player I always bring up is Tiki Barber's 3-year stretch was as good, if not better. And nobody wants Tiki Barber in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I agree with it. But a 3-year stretch should not put you in the Hall of Fame just because you were on a Super Bowl winning team. But that's my point in saying is the bar might not be as high as we think it is because a 3-year stretch like Terrell Davis had can get you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but I think that using outliers to say that this is the minimum that you have to do is a very...
Not minimum,
put it this way, every 10 years or so, there's a guy that gets in because people either like him, and people like Terrell Davis because people like John Elway, and he helped John Elway win Super Bowls.
Right.
There it is. And it turns out it could have been Olanda's Gary for all we knew, or who was the guy?
I think the Zeke call was good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Zeke is a Hall of Famer. The thing is, when you start to look at all these guys' number, I don't know if any of them are Hall of Famers. I think that Derrick Henry has the best case.
He probably has the best case. Christian McCaffrey will be right there with him, unless he keeps missing, unless he's done. But Christian McCaffrey will be there.
Defenses,
because it's going to be on the game. It's going to be the performance of how good it was when he was out there. It's the unstoppableness of him.
Yeah. Defenses before we get out of here. I got Cleveland at number 1. I mean, I don't know if Minshew turned back into a pumpkin or like you, he thought he still played for the Jags because he was just throwing to Jags all day.
I tweeted that out. He forgot that he doesn't play for them anymore.
I think I did.
Did you do the same?
I think I did too. So yeah, very common joke. I'm losing my edge here. San Francisco at number 2, Washington at number 3, Buffalo, Jacksonville, the Giants at number 6, the Saints at number 7 against a potentially gimped up Trevor Lawrence on Thursday night at home, Green Bay, Seattle, Tampa. That's the top 10. Then you got LV. I don't know if that's featuring Coolio or not, but we'll say it's Vegas, Detroit, Indy, KC, the Chargers, New England, and Baltimore. So I ranked 17 defenses this week because I know that people are going to be struggling to go and try to find ones to pick up.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if the only ones I'd probably flip Baltimore and Kansas City. I know Kansas City has been a good defense, but Justin Herbert's been playing. Justin Herbert's different this year. I'm not worried as much as the turnovers as I could see Baltimore forcing Jared Goff into interceptions.
I don't know about that. I mean, Jared Goff really hasn't been turning the ball over all that much, maybe. And like the outdoor Jared Goff thing, I mean, he keeps playing well on the road now. He's beat Kansas City on the road. He played really well against the Packers in Lambeau. He just played really well against a good defense against Tampa Bay. We'll see how he does against Baltimore in the situation. Maybe that is a step up defensively. I think I'd rather go with the boom or bust of both the Chargers and Kansas City in that game. Like, if we expect points, it's one of the highest totals on the board that people think, well, you can't play a defense from that game. Actually, point total in correlation to defense and special teams and fantasy actually rates out really well. That even if your team gives up 28 points, there's a chance that you might score as a defense in that game. Therefore, you generate a lot of fantasy points. I can see Baltimore, Detroit just being very low scoring, methodical, that kind of thing, that you don't get a lot of opportunities for your defense to score points. Like in my winning lineup yesterday, I had Detroit as my defense, and they legit didn't do. You know who never gets sacked? Baker Mayfield. Ever.
He's number one in the NFL.
4 sacks this year.
I know. He's number one in the league right now in passer rating and went under pressure. He's top 5 in 5 different stats when under pressure this year. It's insane. To go back to Jared Goff real quick, the 2 outdoor games were actually it was a 14 and 11 point performance. Last week was great, but to your point,
but the defenses didn't score anything really against him though.
Yeah, the interceptions really. He had an interception in 3 straight games: Seattle, Atlanta, Green Bay. 0 in the other 3, but then I look back to last year and kind of like remembering that it's not as interception heavy as we thought. He has 0 interceptions going all the way back until week 9 was the last time he threw an interception last year. So there's your point that even if he's not great outdoors, Goff isn't the turnover machine that he had been. But yeah, to Baker Mayfield, this is insane that Baker Mayfield has been so good under pressure.
Yeah, unfortunately, they scored 6 points. So how good is he really?
I mean, he's been good, but it doesn't always equate to production. Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and that'll be over in 2.5 hours.
Love Tampa Bay in that game. I think Tampa Bay is going to kick the crap out of shitty teams and just.
Would you take Tampa Bay in Survivor?
No.
Okay. I was giving you a segue as we got out of this.
Bills. Bills. You want to play in the Restart Survivor? It starts this week. Who are you going to take in Restart Survivor? I know the Bills have looked iffy, but this is a nice chance for them to beat the shit out of the Patriots at home, and that's probably who you can use. Who would you use in Survivor, by the way? Like if it was you?
So my answer is different because I've used the Bills, I've used the Chiefs, I somehow survived the Bills last week.
But so did I. In like the full length one, I'm still doing that on the show. But we're in the Restart now. Everyone is fresh to you because you should go play in it as well. It's completely free, Jake. What are you going to pass up on $5,000? You can chip in to pay for the graphics on the show 100%. If you win. Like the Seahawks and Bills are the 2 obvious choices, I think.
Yeah, the Seahawks, I hate divisional opponents, but that feels too easy. Like Arizona came out, and I was like, oh, yes, they're going to ruin Survivor for all these Ram pickers, and that was over real quick. So if I was in the startup, those would be the 2. And I was going to say Kansas City now. I want to risk that home against the Chargers. Trying to think of any other good teams that have already been taken. 49ers at Minnesota. I can see that one too.
Yeah, I don't know. But we're not going to know if McCaffrey or Debo were there. And that's just not to say that they shouldn't be.
They're still.
It's not that I don't care about it. It's just, that I think that the Seahawks at that point become a safer pick than Arizona than the Niners do against Minnesota, who can score points theoretically.
I was just throwing out options is all I'm saying. Would you? There was one that I said. Would you? Oh, the Rams against Kenny Pickett at home?
No.
Okay.
I don't like that. Bills.
I feel like that's the getting cute, but that might be what. Let me flip the question. If you weren't doing the restart and all the big ones that I just mentioned, they're all out. So like Cincinnati's on bye, San Francisco's.
I'm in this situation. I'm taking Seattle.
Okay.
Like that's the biggest spread of the second biggest spread of the week.
I know,
They're at home.
But that might be like an 80%. And if this, again, this is the getting cute factor of Survivor. We are in week 7. The past 2 weeks, we haven't had a giant, like, I know Philly lost, but they weren't a giant pick last week. The biggest 2 were the Dolphins and the Bills. Like, if there was an upset of Arizona and you pivoted to another team, I'm just saying this would be the one of the week where, like, you knock out 80% of your field.
You could be. And Arizona's already knocked out 80% of the field when they beat Dallas earlier this season. But
yeah.
I don't know where it'd be, to be perfectly honest
Saints?
With you.
If no Trevor Lawrence?
No, because I don't think the Saints are good.
Okay.
Like, because it'd be CJ Beathard if Lawrence is out on Thursday night, and Beathard's like, okay. Like, he's fine.
Saints defense good, though.
Okay, then, but they don't score. It's the same argument I get in with Rob and Cam on the Best Bet show every week. I pick against the Saints every week, unless they play another team who's constructed exactly like them. Like, I bet on them to beat the Patriots. I didn't think they beat them by 35, but they're like kind of the better version of the Patriots. They play pretty good defense. Like, they're a top 10 defense, and their offense is terrible. Like, they don't score points. That's tough when other teams do.
You are not wrong there.
Like if the
They
Jag
scored 13 against the Texans.
Like if the Jags can score 17 points against the Saints, they probably win.
Fair point.
So, and I think even with Beathard, they could probably score 17 points. So that would be a no-go for me in that. But anyway,
Okay.
these are the conversations you can
gotta
have
go.
with you and yourself if you join the Restart Survivor League. Your waiver wire drops at midnight on Monday. Your rankings drop Tuesday at midnight on theathletic.com, Jake.
Yes, they do. And I'll probably be awake as they publish tonight, trying to catch up on everything.
Perfect. When you make your nitpicky comments, Jake will see them in real time. So it's perfect. So at theathletic.com. Rate and review this show on Apple and Spotify. Smash the like, play in the Listeners League on DraftKings, play in that Survivor League on League Safe. All that information is down in the description right now. All rankings down there as well. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!